In Vegas, he never meant to marry him, until love changed everything. What could make someone who never intended to marry completely change his heart? And how can love transform a decision that was never part of the plan? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy heartfelt BL stories filled with emotional twists, unforgettable relationships, and meaningful journeys, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. Your support truly means everything to us, and we are grateful that you continue sharing these stories with our community. Before we begin, let us know in the comments. Do you believe love can completely change a decision someone was certain about? Now, get comfortable, relax, and let us step into the beginning of a story where unexpected choices may lead to an unforgettable journey. The biggest mistakes are sometimes the ones your heart refuses to erase. Liam Carter had always believed every important decision in life deserved careful planning. He built his career one calculated step at a time, never rushing into commitments, never allowing emotions to cloud his judgment. Marriage, in particular, belonged on a list of milestones that required certainty, patience, and years of trust. A spontaneous wedding in Las Vegas had never been part of that plan. Yet as the first rays of sunlight slipped through the curtains of a luxurious hotel suite, Liam slowly opened his eyes and immediately realized something felt wrong. His head carried the dull ache of a sleepless night. His phone rested on the nightstand with several missed calls from coworkers, and an unfamiliar silence filled the room. As he sat upright, his attention drifted toward his left hand. A polished platinum wedding band circled his finger, reflecting the morning light with impossible certainty. He frowned, turning his hand over as though another look might somehow change reality. It did not. His pulse quickened. Marriage was impossible. He had come to Las Vegas for a technology conference, attended networking events, enjoyed one evening exploring the city after the final presentation, and expected to fly home to Seattle that afternoon. Nothing in those plans involved exchanging vows with anyone. Trying to remain calm, Liam searched the room for answers. A neatly folded suit rested across a chair. His wallet remained exactly where he remembered leaving it. His watch lay beside the bed. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary except for the wedding band that refused to belong there. Then he noticed another person quietly sleeping on the opposite side of the oversized bed. Liam instinctively froze. The young man looked equally exhausted, his light brown hair slightly messy from sleep, one hand resting near the edge of the blanket. There was nothing familiar about his face. Liam was certain they had never met before. Before he could process another thought, the stranger slowly stirred awake. Soft blue eyes opened with visible confusion before immediately landing on Liam. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. The silence became even heavier when the stranger glanced down at his own left hand. He was wearing the same platinum wedding band. His eyes widened. "Please tell me this is some kind of joke," he whispered. Liam wished he could. Instead, he quietly replied, "I do not think it is." The stranger introduced himself as Noah Bennett, a freelance illustrator from Portland who had taken a short vacation after finishing a demanding project. Their stories shared only one thing in common. Neither had come to Las Vegas expecting their lives to change overnight. Hoping the entire situation could still be explained, Liam searched the suite more carefully until he found a cream-colored envelope resting on a writing desk near the window. Inside lay an official marriage certificate issued by Clark County. Two signatures appeared neatly across the bottom of the page. Liam Carter, Noah Bennett, husband and husband. The document carried official seals, yesterday's date, and every indication that the ceremony had been completed legally. Liam read every line twice before lowering the paper in disbelief. "I never meant to marry anyone," he admitted quietly, almost speaking to himself. Noah looked at the certificate before meeting Liam's uncertain gaze. "Neither did I." Outside, the bright lights of Las Vegas continued shining as though nothing unusual had happened. But inside the quiet hotel suite, two complete strangers found themselves connected by a promise neither remembered making and a future neither had ever planned to face together. Neither Liam nor Noah touched the marriage certificate for several long moments. It rested on the desk between them like an answer neither of them wanted and a question neither of them could solve. Finally, Liam took a slow breath and reached for his phone. "If this really happened," he said calmly, "there has to be some record beyond this document." Noah nodded. grateful that at least one of them was thinking clearly. Together, they began searching for anything that could explain the missing hours. Liam checked his calendar, emails, and digital receipts from the conference. Every meeting before dinner appeared exactly as he remembered. After that, the timeline became strangely incomplete. Noah experienced the same unsettling discovery. His phone contained photographs of famous landmarks along the Las Vegas Strip, colorful casino lights, and a late dinner at a crowded restaurant. Then nearly 5 hours disappeared before the next image appeared shortly after midnight. The photograph stopped both of them cold. Liam and Noah stood outside a small white wedding chapel beneath glowing lights, smiling naturally toward the camera. Neither looked confused. Neither appeared reluctant. They simply looked happy. Noah stared at the screen in disbelief. "I cannot remember taking this." Liam quietly shook his head. "Neither can I." Hoping someone else could explain what they could not, Liam called the wedding chapel listed on the certificate. After verifying several details, the receptionist politely confirmed that the ceremony had taken place the previous evening. According to their records, both men had completed every legal requirement willingly, presented valid identification, signed every document themselves, and even requested commemorative photographs after the ceremony. When Liam carefully asked whether either of them had seemed uncertain or pressured, the receptionist sounded genuinely surprised. "Not at all," she replied. Cheerfully, "You both looked very happy, and everyone commented on how comfortable you seemed together." After ending the call, the room fell silent once again. Noah slowly walked toward the window overlooking the city below. Tourists filled the sidewalks, music echoed from nearby casinos, and another ordinary day in Las Vegas had already begun. Somehow the entire world continued moving exactly as expected while his own future had become impossible to understand. Liam opened his wallet and compared the signature on his driver's license with the signature printed on the marriage license. They matched perfectly. Noah repeated the same comparison with identical results. Every piece of evidence pointed toward the same unavoidable conclusion. They had not been tricked. They had not been forced. Whatever had happened the previous night, they had freely chosen to marry each other. The realization somehow felt even more confusing than the marriage itself. Noah finally broke the silence. "The strange part is not that we got married." Liam looked up from the documents. Noah continued quietly. "The strange part is that two people who had never met before apparently believed it was the right decision." Liam leaned back in his chair, searching for an explanation that refused to appear. He had built his entire life around careful planning, yet every fact sitting in front of him proved he had once made the biggest decision of his life without hesitation. Neither of them understood why. Neither of them remembered how. Yet as they looked at the matching wedding bands still resting on their hands, both men realized the mystery before them was no longer whether the marriage was real. The real mystery was discovering what could have possibly convinced two complete strangers to say yes. After checking out of the hotel, neither Liam nor Noah walked toward the airport with the sense of relief they had expected. Instead, every step seemed to carry another unanswered question. They stopped at a quiet cafe a few blocks away from the Las Vegas Strip, hoping that a calmer setting might help them think more clearly than the luxury suite had. Their untouched cups of coffee slowly cooled. As they spread the marriage certificate, hotel receipts, and phone records across the small table, Liam finally broke the silence. The logical decision would be to contact an attorney and start the divorce process. Noah looked down at the wedding band on his finger before quietly nodding. "I thought I would say the same thing." Neither reached for a phone. The hesitation surprised them both. Liam had spent his entire adult life trusting logic above everything else. Yet something about ending the marriage immediately felt strangely premature. It was not because he believed the marriage should continue forever. It was because making another permanent decision while they still understood almost nothing about the first one seemed careless. Noah shared the same concern. "If we rush into a divorce today," he said thoughtfully, "we may never understand why we agreed to get married in the first place." Liam considered those words carefully before opening his laptop to review Nevada family law. The legal process was straightforward, but it still required paperwork, waiting periods, filing fees, and additional coordination once they returned to their home states. The practical obstacles only reinforced what both men had already begun feeling. There was no urgent deadline forcing them to decide immediately. Liam slowly closed the laptop. Perhaps the smartest decision is not making one today. Noah smiled for the first time since waking up. I was hoping you would say that. They spent the next hour talking about their lives instead of their marriage. Liam described growing up near Seattle, building his career in technology, and carefully planning every major decision he had ever made. Noah spoke about his work as an illustrator, his small apartment in Portland, and how creativity had taught him that not every answer appeared right away. Their personalities were different, yet surprisingly complementary. Liam admired Noah's ability to stay calm inside uncertainty, while Noah appreciated Liam's steady, practical way of solving problems. Before leaving the cafe, they reached a simple agreement. They would remain legally married for the time being, not because either believed the marriage already meant love, but because both believed they owed themselves the chance to understand how such an impossible decision had happened. They exchanged phone numbers, promised complete honesty, and agreed to stay in regular contact after returning home. If either discovered new information about the missing memories, they would immediately share it with the other. There would be no pretending to be a traditional couple, no unnecessary expectations, and no pressure beyond treating each other with respect. As they stood outside beneath the bright Nevada sunshine, Liam extended his hand. Noah looked at it for a brief moment before shaking it firmly. The handshake felt unexpectedly natural, almost familiar, despite the fact that they had technically known each other for only a few hours. They turned toward different airport shuttles carrying separate luggage, separate futures, and one shared promise. Neither of them realized that the temporary arrangement they had just created would quietly become the foundation of something far more meaningful than either had ever intended when they first arrived in Las Vegas. Returning home was supposed to restore the familiar rhythm of life, but both Liam and Noah quickly discovered that ordinary routines no longer felt quite the same. Every morning, the wedding band resting on Liam's finger caught his attention before he even poured his first cup of coffee. More than once he considered removing it before leaving for work, yet each time he hesitated for reasons he could not explain. Across state lines in Portland, Noah experienced the exact same quiet conflict. The ring no longer represented only confusion. It had become a reminder that somewhere beyond unanswered memories was another person trying just as hard to understand what had happened. Their first few conversations after returning home remained practical. They exchanged updates about speaking with attorneys, searching through old photographs, and reviewing credit card statements that offered little more than timestamps and receipts. Every lead ended exactly where the others had, revealing only that the marriage had been entered willingly without explaining why. As the days turned into weeks, the conversations naturally drifted away from the mystery itself. Liam would ask how Noah's latest illustration project was progressing. Noah would ask whether Liam's technology conference proposal had been approved. The messages gradually became part of their everyday routines. Good morning texts turned into lunchtime conversations, and evening phone calls quietly stretched longer than either of them ever intended. They laughed about minor inconveniences, shared favorite restaurants in their hometowns, exchanged photographs of rainy streets, neighborhood bookstores, and sunsets outside their apartment windows. Neither realized how naturally they had begun making room for each other inside lives that had once been completely separate. One Friday afternoon, Liam unexpectedly needed to travel to Portland for meetings with a potential client. Instead of booking the earliest flight home, he hesitated before sending Noah a brief message asking whether he might have time for dinner. Noah replied almost immediately, "I know a place with the best seafood chowder in the city." When they finally met again, there was no awkwardness waiting between them. It felt less like two strangers reconnecting and more like close friends continuing a conversation that had merely paused. Dinner lasted nearly 3 hours as they talked about childhood dreams, favorite holiday traditions, and places they still hoped to visit someday. Liam found himself laughing more easily than he had in months, while Noah noticed that Liam's quiet reserve often hid an unexpectedly thoughtful sense of humor. After leaving the restaurant, they wandered through Portland's waterfront park beneath cool evening skies, talking without paying attention to the passing time. At one point, Noah stopped to admire a street musician performing for a small crowd. Liam remained beside him without saying a word, simply enjoying the peaceful moment. It was ordinary in every possible way, yet neither wanted it to end. As they finally walked back toward Noah's apartment building, Liam realized something that caught him completely off guard. For the first time since Las Vegas, he was no longer spending time with Noah because they happened to share a legal marriage. He was spending time with Noah because he genuinely wanted to. Noah quietly experienced the very same realization as he watched Liam disappear into the waiting rideshare. Without either of them planning it, the temporary agreement they had once described as practical had slowly transformed into something much more personal, built not on forgotten memories, but on countless ordinary moments that neither of them had expected to matter quite so much. By the beginning of autumn, the unanswered questions surrounding the marriage had quietly become less important than the conversations that filled almost every evening. Liam and Noah still exchanged articles about Nevada marriage laws whenever they found something new, but those discussions rarely lasted more than a few minutes before drifting toward work, family, or whatever unexpected event had happened during the day. Without realizing it, they had stopped searching for a reason to stay connected because staying connected had already become natural. The first real challenge arrived during a weekend visit when Liam invited Noah to Seattle for a local technology charity event hosted by his company. Noah accepted with genuine excitement, treating the trip as another opportunity to spend time together rather than an obligation connected to their legal status. The evening began comfortably. Noah admired the city skyline, met several of Liam's co-workers, and quickly won people over with his easygoing personality. More than once, Liam noticed colleagues quietly smiling as they watched the two of them talking together. Near the end of the reception, Liam's longtime friend and business partner, Claire, approached with an amused expression. She greeted Noah warmly before turning toward Liam. "You know," she said with a knowing smile, "I have never seen you this relaxed at one of these events." Liam laughed softly, brushing off the comment, but Claire continued. "Usually you spend the entire evening discussing quarterly goals. Tonight you have actually smiled." Noah looked at Liam with playful curiosity. "Is that true?" Liam admitted. "Probably more than I realized." Later that evening, while walking along Seattle's waterfront, Noah asked a question that lingered in Liam's mind long after the conversation ended. "If none of this had happened, do you think we ever would have met?" Liam thought carefully before answering. "Honestly, I doubt it. Our lives were moving in completely different directions." Noah nodded thoughtfully. "That feels strange." "Why?" Liam asked. Noah looked out across Elliott Bay before replying. "Because now it is difficult to imagine those directions never crossing." Liam did not answer immediately. The silence itself felt like an answer. A few days later, Noah returned to Portland carrying more than memories from the trip. He realized he now measured ordinary moments against whether he could eventually tell Liam about them. A beautiful sunrise, a funny customer at a coffee shop, or a successful afternoon finishing an illustration somehow felt incomplete until they had spoken. Liam experienced the same quiet habit. During long meetings, he occasionally caught himself wondering what Noah might say about a difficult decision or whether Noah would enjoy a new restaurant he had discovered near the office. Neither man described these thoughts as love. Both still believed they were simply growing closer through unusual circumstances. Yet the people around them began noticing changes long before they did. Claire privately asked Liam whether he planned to introduce Noah to the rest of his family during Thanksgiving. Noah's younger sister, Emily, casually remarked during a phone call that he sounded happier than he had in years. Their questions left both men quietly reflecting on something neither had been ready to admit. Somewhere between searching for forgotten memories and sharing ordinary days, the future they had never planned was beginning to feel surprisingly difficult to imagine without each other. November arrived with colder mornings and longer evenings, yet the distance between Seattle and Portland somehow felt smaller than ever. Liam and Noah had fallen into a rhythm that neither of them questioned anymore. Video calls happened almost every night, weekend visits alternated between their cities, and planning those visits had quietly become something they both looked forward to. The mystery of their marriage had not disappeared, but it no longer controlled every conversation. Instead, their shared experiences after Las Vegas were slowly becoming far more meaningful than the memories they could not recover. One Thursday afternoon, Noah received unexpected news from a publishing company that had admired his illustrations. They wanted him to present a proposal in Seattle for a major children's book project that could change the direction of his career. Excited but nervous, Noah immediately called Liam. Without hesitation, Liam offered to help him prepare. Over the next several evenings, they reviewed presentation slides together through video calls, discussing every detail until Noah felt confident enough to face the meeting. The morning of the presentation, Liam met Noah outside the publishing office with 2 cups of coffee. "You already have the talent," Liam said with a reassuring smile. "Today, you only need to let them see it." Noah laughed softly, grateful for the encouragement. "I never realized how much your confidence could become my own." The meeting lasted almost 2 hours. Liam waited nearby, working quietly on his laptop inside a neighborhood cafe. When Noah finally walked through the door, his expression said everything before he spoke a single word. He had earned the contract. Liam stood immediately, genuinely happier than if the success had been his own. Without thinking, Noah wrapped him in a brief, heartfelt hug born entirely from relief and gratitude. They both paused for a second after stepping apart, neither embarrassed nor uncomfortable, only quietly aware that moments like this had become increasingly natural between them. That evening they celebrated with dinner overlooking Elliott Bay. As they watched ferries cross the water beneath the city lights, Noah admitted something he had never said aloud. "A few months ago, I thought this marriage was the biggest mistake of my life." Liam smiled gently without looking away from the view. "So did I," Noah continued. "Now I cannot imagine getting through today without you." Liam remained silent for several moments before answering honestly. "Neither can I." Before either of them could say anything more, Liam's phone rang. The call came from the attorney they had contacted months earlier. The paperwork they had requested after returning from Las Vegas was finally complete. If they still wished to dissolve the marriage, the documents would be ready for signature the following week. Liam thanked the attorney and quietly ended the call. Noah had heard enough to understand exactly what the conversation meant. The excitement of the evening suddenly gave way to thoughtful silence. Months earlier, that phone call would have felt like freedom. Now it felt strangely different. Neither man reached for the subject immediately. Instead, they continued watching the lights reflecting across the water, each realizing that the decision waiting ahead had quietly become far more complicated than either of them could have imagined. Somewhere along the journey, the marriage they had once viewed as an unexpected legal problem had transformed into the place where both of them had discovered trust, comfort, and someone worth choosing every single day. The attorney emailed the completed divorce documents the following Monday, but neither Liam nor Noah opened the attachment right away. It remained unread in both of their inboxes throughout the workday, quietly waiting for a decision that suddenly felt impossible to make. Months earlier, they had counted the days until the paperwork would arrive. Now each hour that passed without opening the email seemed strangely comforting. That evening, they met halfway between Seattle and Portland in a small waterfront town they had discovered during one of their weekend drives. It had gradually become their favorite place because no one there knew anything about the unusual way their story had begun. They ordered dinner at the same family-owned restaurant, laughed about a waiter who remembered their favorite desserts, and walked slowly along the quiet marina as fishing boats rocked gently against their docks. Finally, Noah spoke. "We have been searching for answers about Las Vegas for months." Liam nodded. "We have." Noah looked across the water before continuing. "I do not think the answer is there anymore." Liam turned toward him with quiet curiosity. Noah smiled thoughtfully. "Even if someone handed us every missing memory from that night, would it really change what has happened since then?" Liam did not answer immediately because he already knew the truth. The most meaningful parts of their relationship had never depended on forgotten hours inside a wedding chapel. They had been built afterward through countless ordinary choices. The late-night phone calls after difficult days, the flights between Portland and Seattle, the quiet dinners without any special occasion, the encouragement before Noah's presentation, the conversations that lasted until midnight simply because neither wanted to be the first to say goodbye. Those moments belonged entirely to them. No missing memory could replace them. Liam finally admitted what had been growing inside him for weeks. "When we first met, I kept thinking about how to undo the marriage." Noah listened without interrupting. Liam continued softly. "Somewhere along the way, I stopped trying to figure out how to leave, and I started thinking about how to stay." Noah lowered his eyes for a brief moment before smiling. "I thought I was the only one." A cool breeze drifted across the marina as evening lights reflected across the calm water. Liam laughed quietly. "Do you know something else that changed?" Noah looked up. "What?" Liam glanced at the wedding band he had once wanted to remove as quickly as possible. I forgot why I was wearing this ring. Then one day I realized I was no longer wearing it because of Las Vegas. I was wearing it because every day after Las Vegas gave it a different meaning. Noah slowly nodded. The marriage certificate connected two strangers. Everything afterward connected two people who actually chose to know each other. Neither rushed to fill the comfortable silence that followed. For the first time since waking up inside the hotel suite, they no longer felt trapped by a decision they could not remember. Instead, they felt grateful for every decision they had made since then with complete awareness. As they began walking back toward the parking lot, Liam reached for Noah's hand almost absent-mindedly. Noah accepted it just as naturally, their fingers fitting together without hesitation. Neither commented on the gesture because it no longer felt unusual. It simply felt right. At that quiet moment, both men understood something that months of searching had failed to reveal. The greatest truth of their story had never been hidden inside the missing hours in Las Vegas. It had been written one ordinary day at a time afterward, until two people who had never planned a future together quietly discovered they no longer wanted one without each other. The divorce papers remained exactly where they had been for an entire week, untouched inside a folder on Liam's desk and unopened inside Noah's briefcase. Neither man needed to say it aloud because they both understood the quiet truth. The delay was no longer about uncertainty. It was about admitting that signing those documents would end something neither of them wanted to lose. When the following Saturday arrived, Noah drove to Seattle carrying the folder with him, determined that avoiding the decision any longer would only make it more difficult. Liam welcomed him into the apartment with the same relaxed smile that had become familiar over the past several months. Yet both immediately noticed the envelope resting beneath Noah's arm. Without speaking, they sat together at the dining table where sunlight filtered softly through the windows. Noah carefully placed the documents between them. "I thought we should do this together," he said quietly. Liam nodded. "So did I." For several minutes, neither reached toward the papers. Instead, they found themselves talking about everything except the signatures waiting on the final page. They remembered their first awkward breakfast after waking up in Las Vegas, laughed about the countless theories they had invented to explain their missing memories, and smiled at how uncomfortable they had once felt sitting across from each other. Liam shook his head with quiet amusement. "Back then I kept counting the days until everything would return to normal." Noah looked at him warmly. "Do you still want normal?" Liam smiled before answering. "I think this became my normal a long time ago." Noah lowered his eyes, feeling the same realization settle gently inside him. Eventually, Liam opened the folder. The legal language covered several neatly typed pages, reducing months of shared experiences to formal paragraphs and signature lines. It seemed almost impossible that something which had grown so meaningful could be summarized by paperwork alone. Liam picked up the pen resting beside the documents, turned it slowly between his fingers, then placed it back on the table without writing a single word. Noah quietly laughed. "I was hoping you would do it first because I knew I could not." Liam looked at him, surprised. "You cannot sign either?" Noah slowly shook his head. "Not because I am afraid of change." He paused before continuing. "Because somewhere along the way, I stopped wanting this marriage to end." The room became perfectly still. Liam took a deep breath, knowing there was no longer any reason to hide what had already become obvious in every choice they had made over the past months. "When we first met, I thought the biggest mistake of my life was waking up beside someone I did not know." He looked directly into Noah's eyes. "Now I think the biggest mistake would be pretending I still do not know you." Noah smiled, his eyes reflecting quiet emotion rather than surprise. "You know," he said softly, "we spent so much time trying to remember why we got married that we almost missed the fact that we gave ourselves a completely new reason to stay married." Liam reached across the table and gently closed the folder containing the unsigned divorce papers. Neither of them needed another discussion. The answer had already been written through months of ordinary conversations, shared laughter, patient understanding, and countless moments when each had quietly chosen the other without even realizing it. The papers remained unsigned, not because of forgotten promises made in Las Vegas, but because the promises they had built afterward had become infinitely more important than the ones they could no longer remember. Winter arrived, quietly, bringing crisp mornings, holiday lights, and the feeling that another year was preparing to begin. Several weeks after leaving the divorce papers and signed, Liam found himself making more trips to Portland than ever before. At first they were simple weekend visits, but eventually returning to Seattle on Sunday evenings became the hardest part of every week. Noah noticed the same change. His apartment, once perfectly comfortable, suddenly felt too quiet after Liam's car disappeared around the corner. Neither of them questioned what that meant anymore. The answer had already revealed itself through everyday life. One snowy afternoon, Liam invited Noah to spend the weekend in Seattle before the holidays. They wandered through a neighborhood winter market, sampled hot chocolate from a local cafe, and laughed while searching for gifts for family members who had unknowingly followed every step of their unusual journey. Later that evening, standing beside the large windows of Liam's apartment overlooking the city lights, Noah quietly asked, "Do you ever wish we remembered everything that happened in Las Vegas?" Liam considered the question for a long moment before gently shaking his head. "I used to," he admitted. "I thought the missing memories were the most important part of our story." Noah smiled softly. "And now?" Liam looked at the wedding band that had once felt like a mistake and now felt completely natural. "Now I think we spent too much time looking backward. Everything that truly mattered happened after we woke up." Noah stepped closer, understanding exactly what Liam meant without needing another explanation. Every ordinary conversation, every shared meal, every late-night phone call, every encouraging word before an important meeting, every quiet drive between Portland and Seattle had slowly built a relationship stronger than anything either of them could have remembered from a single evening. Their marriage had not survived because of one unexpected night. It had survived because they had chosen each other again and again after that night, fully aware of every decision they were making. A few days later, Liam traveled to Portland once more, but this visit felt different. Instead of carrying an overnight backpack for the weekend, he arrived with several moving boxes in the back of his vehicle. Noah opened the front door, looked at the boxes, and raised an amused eyebrow. Liam smiled with the calm certainty that had taken months to discover. "I spent my whole life believing the perfect plan came before the right decision," he said. "Then I met you, and everything happened in the opposite order." Noah laughed quietly as Liam continued. "I never meant to marry anyone that weekend. But if I had the chance to choose today, knowing everything I know now, I would still choose you." Noah felt every lingering doubt disappear. "Then maybe we finally understand why we never signed those papers." Together, they carried the first box inside the apartment that would soon become their shared home, not because fate had forced them together, but because they freely chose the future waiting ahead. The mystery that had begun in Las Vegas was never fully solved, and somehow neither of them minded anymore. Some questions no longer needed answers once life itself had become the answer. Their story had started with two strangers connected by a promise neither remembered making. It ended with two people who remembered every ordinary day they had spent choosing one another, proving that the strongest love is not always born from perfect plans, but from the quiet courage to embrace the unexpected and turn it into the happiest chapter of a lifetime.